children Okay, I'm starting a little early here. I don't I don't know why, but I feel like it. And I think we've been off the air and things have been inconsistent long enough that if I were to come on a few minutes early, I think all can be forgiven. So, um we are okay. We have some folks in the chat. Hello. More folks showing up, I mean. Glad everybody's here. All right, well, thank you for that, Dion. It's good to see the usual crew is here. Um, so I was a little worried, but I mean, not very worried about the title, talking about the white sun again. But Chick sent over a video of Elizabeth Taylor because we were talking about, you know, people claim that Michael Jackson has died a couple different times depending on who you talk to in different ME circles. And the same thing goes for Elizabeth Taylor. And inside of the description here, and I guess I can paste it in the window too, start around minute 114, Elizabeth Taylor talks about the NDE she had. And the important thing about the why are Chick's videos down? I don't know. I don't. Maybe we can find out on the air when she comes on. I'm just waiting for her to come on. We were talking just a little bit earlier, so I hope everything is okay. What I can do is, you know what I'll do? I'll just go ahead and send her an invite. Anyway. But anyway, the point is, she found this great video with Elizabeth Taylor being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. It's back when Elizabeth Taylor was alive for the first or second or third time. It's hard to keep track with certain celebrities, right? It's a specific kind of celebrity that goes over and over and over again. They have to be sort of iconic, I guess.
Hello.
Hey, hello. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I was talking about your video. I said, I figured it was okay that we started early, considering we've had such a bad run lately with just all different manner of things, and we had technical issues, and then we had me being sick, and then on and on again. Everybody who's familiar with the channel knows about all this, but what I can do is check into what everybody is saying about the sound here. Hopefully the sound is good this
Hang on one
week.
sec, guys. Let me make sure my configurations are correct.
Yeah.
um,
And yeah, because I'm already hearing the same kind of noise that we heard last week.
okay, my headphones are back on. I can hear everyone now.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, because we did a sound check earlier, and it was good, and it sounds like we're kind of hearing some rattling here.
You're only hearing rattling because I'm moving the computer around to try and get my mic in the right spot. I didn't know we were live right now. Sorry, guys.
No worries, no worries. No big deal, no big deal.
One sec.
Yep. So anyway, let me, so you had sent me over, while you're doing that, I'll tell everybody, you sent me over a video about, Elizabeth Taylor and her near-death experience, and I told them to go to about a minute 14 if they don't want to watch the whole thing. It's not that long a video, but go to around a minute 14, and she talks about, in her NDE, she talks about seeing a white sun. Blew my mind, completely blew my mind, because other than this channel and maybe a couple other ME channels, I don't think that that's really something a lot of people talk about, Chick.
No, that was one of the things that I really noticed. And I'm using the new microphone now. Is the level okay?
You sound great. That microphone is like on point. Hopefully everybody out there can hear the difference, because it's a massive difference.
Okay, and
So
everybody, let me know if I'm too loud because I can actually turn it down from my side here too. So we're in
nice.
business right now, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds like really great. Okay, great. So, all right. So The white sun reference is it's kind of an ongoing theme here, and when you showed the video to me, um, it really, I don't know, I don't, it did nothing really rattles me anymore, but it kind of reconfirmed again what we always knew, but it harkens back to the old 2012 idea where perhaps the Mandela effect is a shared experience in terms of the original We Died in 2012 series. The whole basis of the original series was that the world had already ended and we're in some form of the afterlife. And what we're doing, and this is just just this was just I was just I don't know anything, and I'm just saying that this is a possibility, is that we're in the afterlife and what we're doing is living out our lives as we thought it should have happened in the wake of a kind of mass annihilation event on Earth, and we're in the wake of that. And it's something I talked about for about a year and a half or so, and then slowly we started to get into, I started to get into other interests, and then Chick and I got together and started to do the Lost and Found bin, and then we, started to get into heavy, hardcore research. But I got to tell you, Chick, when you found the video, and it was just today you found this, I was actually thinking about, um, I don't know, it really kind of threw me off a bit. So I don't know, what do you think?
It definitely threw me off. So I like had the weirdest day. It just seemed like somehow Elizabeth Taylor just like was ready to rattle me today because I didn't know about that video until today. I was having this. I'm not even sure how it started, but I guess I was looking through my stuff and I realized that everything that I had on Elizabeth Taylor had disappeared.
Hmm.
Like everything, all the screenshots, all of the footage, all of the anything that I had on her was gone. I checked my tweets, any tweets I ever made about her was gone. So I started to look Elizabeth Taylor died to look for like news, to look for, anything that would help. And one of the first things that came up was like an NDE experience of Elizabeth Taylor that she shared with Oprah.
Hmm.
So then I was like, oh, it's only 3 minutes long. I'll have a look. And it was, yeah, it rattled me to bits because there was nothing on the video that mentioned the white sun. Like literally I clicked it and just Elizabeth Taylor herself said, you know I um she said first she had an out of body, like she could see above, she was looking from above down at the people that were trying to resuscitate her. She had been declared dead for 4 minutes, and that she felt this like white sun. She said it was like this really warm, friendly, but white sun that she saw, and she felt weightless. And then she saw all these people that she had known, including one of the men that she loved, uh, saying that it's not your time, you have to go back. And she said that she went back and that she ended up reading her own obituaries because the press had just decided that she was permanently dead. So I don't know how within the space of her only being dead for 4 minutes, they had printed all of these news stories that she was really dead. So I'm not sure what kind of crazy situation she ended up in. And then it went even further from there. And I posted about it, but then I took the post down because I wanted to get more reality residue to make the case a bit stronger. Because, like I said, I don't have any screenshots or anything now to back myself up like I had before because they all disappeared. But I have two conflicting timelines going on where I have Mandela affected people who remember Elizabeth Taylor going to Michael Jackson's funeral, and I have Mandela affected people who remember Michael Jackson going to Elizabeth Taylor's funeral. So
Amazing,
they
amazing.
went to each other's funeral, but I need more reality residue of Michael Jackson going to her funeral because I have found loads of reality residue for her going to his funeral. But I need both cases to be really strong and then to put them forward.
Okay, so it almost feels as if it's like a revisiting right now of this week. I feel as if, I always talk about how things are cyclical, and someone mentioned Eileen. She found that, here it is, Eileen, for a while earlier this year, the sun came up in searches as being classified as a white dwarf. Last I checked, they're saying it's yellow again. Thanks, Data Junkie. The sun is not yellow again, it's still white. That's not a rebuke of you, Data Junkie. It's the rebuke of the yellow sun. So, that's just something I wanted to kind of, for anybody who's, the whole white sun thing for anybody who's new is kind of an ongoing theme with us, because we think that that's one of the more powerful indicators. If you ever wonder if you're an ME, look up, and if you think this, if the sun looks different to you, that is one of your first indications of being an ME. Let's put that aside. But Chick, in terms of revisiting all of these kind of old things, that's why I have of these old MEs, these classical MEs. I have that picture right now for everybody on screen, and it's a black and white picture. And this plays into what I'm talking about with Elizabeth Taylor. I can tie it all in. And you'll see they're holding little ladders. And this just tells you you're in a different version of reality, because during the Lindbergh trials, which we all know about the Lindbergh baby, how could you not only is there mass confusion of whether or not they found the baby, they didn't find the baby, whether or not there was a conviction in the, for the people who took the baby, whether or not there wasn't. Now, Jennifer from Twitter, she sent me over clips from, it's just a regular Lindbergh baby, just a regular documentary about Charles Lindbergh, the kidnapping, basically of his life. And it's really great if you watch it. It's kind of in the old cadence, like I talk about, of the early 20th century radio star, how they kind of talked really fast and they talked this way. So what you're seeing there are little ladders, and that just shows how twisted Orion is back in time in Orion. During the trial, one of the hallmarks of the trial, at least here in this version of existence, is the people, the kidnappers, they got in through a ladder. So there was someone outside that she got a still from the regular documentary, and she posted it on Twitter, and they're selling ladders, Chick, and people are buying this, and it's to me that is, if whether or not the baby lived or didn't, which I'm reading the baby didn't survive, and this was a murder trial, not a kidnapping trial. This is so macabre and dark, and I think this picture alone almost sums up the conflict and the feeling and everything that is Orion, Chick. What do you think?
Like, especially back then, I mean, people have been so desensitized by just the pressures of like austerity and then horror movies and then all the things that people are exposed to now. But back then you weren't. It was kind of a different time, and the fact that people are like so chill about a murdered baby that they want to have a souvenir ladder of what the man used to get up into the window to steal the child and murder it, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, I want to buy that. And you can see they're smiling there in the picture. It's just like I said to you before, like if there's no sympathy for a murdered baby, then they just have no sympathy at all. Like it's not to a Sagittarius person. This is a very asinine, disgusting photograph. I don't understand, and I think most people in our position do not understand why that would be okay.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect kind of summary of all that's wrong with this, with whatever this is that we're in. There's this change, this shift, this I don't know what this is. And it's just, and because I remember when I was growing up, they were talking about, this was before the internet was really big. They were talking about horror movies were the fall guy of all of this. It was horror movies that were desensitizing people, and it was doing it because it was the 80s and the 90s, and all of those movies were just, and now there's American Horror Story 1984, and that kind of catches that sort of horror element. They took all of, like Friday the 13th and Halloween and all of those things, and back then the accusation was it was making people more callous. And people would often hearken back to, when I was a kid, they would hearken back to these kinds of times when people were more gentle with one another, kind of what you're talking about and what you're expressing. And now this totally would totally upend that, this idea, because it's a real callousness to this, because even if we're talking about a simple kidnapping, the terror that you can't I can't imagine the terror and the horror, because it is different versions with Lindbergh, and that is part of the revisiting of all of these old MEs. It seems like new information is coming out. Like, I've never seen these latter pictures, and they're in the description. They're actually in the description. In the you have to watch and find. I don't remember exactly where they're at inside of the documentary, but that also goes back to, it's almost like an ME nostalgia week, and it's I don't know. So I just feel almost as if, I always talk about cyclical things, like we're almost in a mini cycle where it's like almost like ME nostalgia. So all the old ME stuff is getting changed, or facelifts, or changes, or whatever.
I think that it's like, yes, I would agree, like a cycle, but at the same time, I was looking over the Lindbergh case just before the show to see what was the story, had it changed again, and it has changed again for me from the first time it changed.
Mm.
So, like, you know, the first original version was they never found the baby. That was the version from, the timeline or the reality or whatever that I came from. They never found the baby. It was a mystery. And then believe it was 2017 that they, or maybe it was 2016, when the Mandela effect of the Lindbergh baby started circulating around, and they said, "Oh, okay, they found the baby like the next day, dead," and now they didn't find the baby for like 12 days.
Mm. Oh God. So they
So
did. They haven't.
who knows what happened to that child. So yeah, it's way more horrific. Now they found the baby, like it says on Wikipedia that they found the baby, battered and smashed on the side of a road. But in the chat, it's saying that there's photographs of the baby in a shallow grave. So I'm not sure which happened, or if both happened, but it's like terrible. And it would never have, especially something as terrible as that, it would never have been possible to say, "Oh, we just didn't find the baby, we just didn't know," especially with it being so publicized and so um such a huge case. And like I said before, now it doesn't even make sense that it's a huge case because it was solved pretty much straight away. Well, now it's not immediately straight away. Now it's 12 days instead of like a day and a half.
Gosh. And I even think the suspects have changed, because I remember there were different suspects, and I can't and now I can't remember specifically about what was making those suspects even more egregious. There was something about them that made the public even more outraged, and I think it had to do with, and this may be part of the version, but it did have something to do with them um, being tied to the Lindberghs, as in being part of their staff, or being part of the, like, groundskeepers or something like that. I think. So I'm not very sure. And I know people have sent in a couple of super chats, and I thank you very much, everyone, for sending in super chats. We've been off our game for a while, and I have neglected. Thank you, Jason. I have neglected the channel. I have neglected um, pretty much everything, and that's going to change. Thank you, Darren. And that obviously is going to change because I'm starting to feel much, much better, and everything's getting back on course. And obviously, the tech issues are changing, so or have been fixed apparently. So, Jason, I think are you accidentally hitting it over and over again? Because I truly appreciate it, and you can keep going, but I just want to make sure you're not accidentally you're not accidentally doing that. But if you are, by all means. But I don't know, Chick. I don't know. It's very strange. And then I don't want to talk about the video that you and I viewed um, beforehand specifically. I don't want to talk about it here. However, what I want to talk about, what seems to be interesting to me, is 2012 again and again just seems to be popping up over and over again, and it's still. If you looked at the comments of what we were looking at earlier, they brought up the Mandela effect, and I don't know. There's something around all of this, and I don't know. I've got a feeling.
Well, I think that the 2012 thing, as you mentioned, it seems that kind of no matter what direction you go in, you end up being brought back around to 2012. And it seems to be pervasive in a whole bunch of things, but especially the Mandela effect, and possibly even in, other paranormal phenomena. But for the most part, um, I'm just, I don't know. I always get this strange feeling because it was so fearful at that time, but I didn't think, nobody thought it was going to end up turning out this way. Um, I always thought like the danger would be more immediate with 2012, like it would be a physical and present danger, or something crazy would happen. But this is almost more scary in the way that it's very slow running and surreal, and whatever is going on. Like I got the white sun shining in right now the window right this moment as I speak, and it's just a reminder of the situation that we're in. And I'm finding it really difficult to verbalize just kind of what 2012 means to me in all this, because it was very much a central point. As in, I feel like that's kind of where the stone was dropped in the water, and the ripples kind of went backwards and forwards in time and messed up things, as far as I can see, reality wise, in both directions. And maybe that's why some people have double memories for things.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting thought. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. And someone mentioned too, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said there. They mentioned kind of a fuzziness pre 2012, and it's almost as if we can't handle um, like the. I almost feel as if we can't handle the entirety of one timeline or one lifetime now, and the way that we and maybe that's the way it's always been. I don't know, but I feel as if we can't handle the entirety of one lifetime now, and that it has to be, in a way, broken up for some reason. And I don't know if that's a defensive or an offensive reason, but it's as if 2012 itself has become the, at least for this channel and particularly mostly the folks around here, it's kind of a huge benchmark, and it's a huge point of interest, and it's the time in which things started to really speed up, and and I think the idea of having those simultaneous timelines, and maybe more than one, or excuse me, maybe more than two, maybe not more than two, but having the simultaneous timeline and knowing, and we've talked about this before, knowing there's another version of you, and perhaps being in a timeline not as oh, thank you, Jason and Jen. Thank you, everybody. I mean, you guys are great. Thank you so much. Really, seriously, it's really thank you. It's just, I don't know. I feel as if like we're heading towards an impasse, maybe, and I hate that whole like selling the doom kind of thing, because it doesn't always have to necessarily being a negative thing. It could be an incredibly positive thing, um, and and in some way, I'm hoping that it is exactly that. Um, and I think that a lot of things that people are wrapped up in right now might just be minor noise in the background, and I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too. Like I think the thing that I'm kind of more focused on today is just I'm hoping that, like as you've said many times, that the effect is a natural, that this was going to happen. That it's not something that just was bungled up by mankind, because it just seems, at least with what happened to Elizabeth Taylor, it seemed like that was kind of a normal thing, whereas what's happening with us doesn't seem or feel to be a normal thing at all. As in, like, okay, there's the white sun, things are very surreal and strange, but obviously it's not the same as her, where she went, into a completely different, went beyond the veil completely and saw people that already had passed away, and she went into, and then she came back to Earth. It's almost like there's a little glimpse of, well, I was going to say night and day at the same time, but that's actually a phenomena that does exist here. Is you can have the nighttime and daytime sky at the same time, and I've posted videos of that on my channel, and you can find videos of that on YouTube. So
Yeah.
even as an example, like that's not even a good one because that's real now too. But what I'm trying to say is like it's almost like we have this strange twilight going on, where we just can't get a hold of what's happening. And I know that it's been a long time and we just really want answers. Um, and I guess my hope is that if it is a naturally occurring event, then it will come to a plateau. It'll level out and it'll become clear what's going on. Whereas if it is some big bungle job by like CERN or something, then all bets are off. I don't know what direction it'll go in.
And let me let me ask you about that. Just you personally, like kind of an impromptu, just real quick interview here. If if this thing isn't natural, like this thing is you know this thing was made by CERN or D Wave or insert bad guy here kind of thing in the sentence. Or we're a sim or whatever it is, and we've tinkered with the code of existence, like the movie, The Matrix, or whatever. You know, do you think that there will be a moment where, because I don't think we're alone. Do you think that there will be a intervention at some point if it goes too far? If it isn't something that's natural, what do you think?
I have no idea what kind of intervention could be possible at this point. I mean, it's not as if we can sit down with reality and say, hey, you need to figure yourself out. It's kind of more like a Pandora's box situation where you're just like, well, I hope it was the time and place for the box to open and that this was what needed to happen. And it's not just, oh, some idiot opened the box and what are we going to do now? The kind of, it could go either way. Um, but at the same time, even if it was some fool that opened the box that didn't know what they were getting into, I still believe not just that God is involved, but that reality has a self-correcting aspect to it. And I am hoping that either way, we're going to get into a better situation of either getting home to the yellow sun and going back to normal, or having some kind of resolution of some kind. Because I feel like the Schrodinger's cat idea keeps coming back again and again, and I think that's why we can't find the answer, is because it's like we're the Schrodinger's cat in the box, and we're just in that chaos limbo state of it could go either way. Who knows? Which is fine if it's a short amount of time, but when it's years and years, you're just like, we need to know what's going on with reality. Is it just consensus dissolving, or is it coming into a new consensus that we just don't understand yet? Um, I can't really make sense of it. I'm seeing more and more new photographs from old times. I think that you saw the photograph of the Waterloo veteran
Yeah.
that I posted, super high resolution, like digital photograph from 18 something or other. And it's just crazy to even think about. But he and his wife literally look like they're alive right now. Like their expressions are very animated. And I said this before, that I think that it's not just in our point in time or in our now that we're dealing with this kind of chaos. I think that maybe one of the reasons why all these photographs are showing up is because there could be people who are in the present in their time that are also coming up against this madness. It's probably not as noticeable in the Old West, but I mean, there has to be a reason why that technology is coming about and why we're seeing it so much.
Absolutely. So, anybody who's new in the chat and you haven't caught up, I know this guy. I'm Parzavilli. If you're gonna have to just catch up with the show. If you keep asking over and over again, I'll ban you because I ban people a lot. I do it frequently, and I don't care. Um, and I've been kind of psyched. I'm kind of in the mood again to do that. So I've been it's kind of my hobby. This is like my passion, but like banning people is actually something I enjoy. I enjoy doing. Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. Thanks, Jimbo. You said settle. Who are you talking to? Me? I hope you're talking. I hope you're not talking to me. Well, I kind of hope you do. Either way. But anyway. Oh, there we go, Jimbo. You did it, buddy. I'm sorry, man. You're out. Hold on, everybody. Jimbo's gonna hold up the show for us because Jimbo is out of here because I'm on my ego power trip. I am on my ego power trip, big time. So anyway, the point is, let's see, go to channel. All right, I'm gonna go to Jimbo's channel here. Oh, nope, that's Lisa. Don't want to get rid of you, Lisa. Chick, go for it. You can go ahead and talk while I ban Jimbo.
For sure. Looks like the chat is going wild here and saying that you've got the banning hammer and you're bringing it down on people's heads.
Yes.
Um, uh, let's see now. Seth was talking again about the surrealness of evidence coming up of Michael Jackson attending Elizabeth Taylor's funeral and Elizabeth Taylor attending Michael Jackson's funeral. And like I said, as soon as I have more reality residue on an earlier deceased date for Elizabeth Taylor, then I will post it full bore. But right now, I just have a person saying that they remember it in 2008, and I'm just like, well, that's I believe you. You're a Mandela affected person, but I need to get more. I need to actually get some articles or get some tweets or get some more evidence that timeline actually is anywhere near this one. And as I said before, just because you're the one person that remembers something doesn't make it any less real. But it's just when you're trying to present a case to people, especially anything with Michael Jackson's name in it, you better have something good to show people.
Yeah.
Personally, at this point, like I said, I'm fully convinced from what I've seen that not only has Elizabeth Taylor died earlier for me, she's died later for people from this timeline. Like, I had a person contact me and say that they saw her in like tabloid covers and that she was still alive up until fairly recently, and now she's been dead since March of 2011. So there are a lot of people that were like, yeah, this is not lining up very this is not lining up as we remembered it even just like yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, too, the going along with kind of a kind of refurbishing of kind of some of the episodes we've gone over before. Not only do we have the ladder, which also plays into the idea of Jacob's ladder. I was looking through those. We were talking about it last week, and I wanted to revisit again, which is the cities, the kind of cities inside of the clouds. And you'll see here, I did Google, and I'm going through Google's, pictures of these cities, and Chick, I didn't even know there were so many versions, and they were actually trying to explain that these are mirages, which we knew about, but they're also like mirages from boats in the water. Even though some of these cities are way inland, they're mirages from boats, and that makes no sense to me.
Well, as you can see, like some of the skyscrapers there that are clearly not boats. The problem was initially they said, "Oh, it's a mirage," but you can see the buildings underneath them are completely architecturally different. So
Yep.
it's not just like, oh, the image is somehow bouncing up in the sky. It's like, no, this is a whole bunch of skyscrapers that probably on the Sagittarius arm or whatever other arm, that's what's actually built in that place, and you can see both. You're just in some weird moment where you can see both cities, the one that's here and the one that's also here, but in a different in a different timeline. Like, they're on top of each other. It's very strange. Like, look at oh, you got rid of it there. I was just about to
I can go
point
back.
at where it was obviously
I can go back. No worries. I'll go back. Cool. Here we go.
obviously not a boat.
Go for it. Tell me where to go. I can do it. Let me go up.
I don't see it now.
Here, I can scroll down.
Oh, there we go, it's back. Okay.
Where?
I think there was just a little bit of a lag. So where it says floating cities have appeared in the sky, oh, go down. Yeah, you
Floating.
see this blue picture here next
Yep.
to the CGI'd picture.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a boat.
No. No. I
It's
mean,
just like, for anyone that needs a clearer picture, that right there is not a boat.
no. That's totally not a boat. And I think there was one, and I think it was, not to sound too conspiratorial, I think it was scrubbed from the internet. There was one where they showed objects going in and out, as in like helicopters, airplanes, sky objects, not like UFOs. I mean, like if it was a regular city in another version of reality that got a little too close or the veil was a little too thin. It was, and the thing I notice about it too is it's always like some kind of like urban landscape. These are mega cities. So I have to wonder, if these other versions of reality are massively different that are incredibly close to our veil. That's really amazing to me because my understanding of the way I always envisioned reality, and back in the days when I was talking to the anonymous government contractor about the UAP stuff, my understanding of reality was that there are different versions of reality and they lay incredibly close to one another. And it's like turning a page in a book, only it's just a little bit different with each page until finally you get to the end of the book, and then all of it's totally different. Now, this seems like way different, and I mean, this is like nothing I've seen before. I mean, this is a mega metropolis. I mean, a mega metropolis.
For sure. Well, like on some of the different versions of of these different places, the population is a lot bigger, and I wonder if that could be part of it too. Is that I mean, China, for example, was like 2.1 billion, I believe, and
Right.
now it's like
Mm-hmm.
1.2 billion. So it's literally half the population that it was on the Sagittarius arm for me. And a lot of places looked more like the skyscrapers in China than the architecture they actually have on the ground here in like Orion, China. Not to say that it like I know for sure it is the Sagittarius. I don't. I'm just saying that it looks more like the photographs that I'd seen of really urban built up places in China were like those dark skyscrapers that were kind of depressing looking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I noticed too with these skyscrapers why I believe these aren't mirages is they have a sort of architectural consistency with them. And what I mean by that is one, they're buildings that are packed together like you would see in any normal skyline. However, every one of the buildings, if you'll notice, and I caught this one on purpose, it's a HuffPost article from 2017, I believe, and it looks like a regular city in the distance, and you're sitting on a balcony or on the ground, and there's a heavy mist involved, and maybe early in the morning or whatever it may be. However, if you'll look at the architectural element that I noticed was you'll see like a little box on top of each one of the skyscrapers. Do you notice that?
Yeah, I could see windows and everything. Like if you just squint at the picture, if you
We're
explain
offline.
away.
We're offline.
Oh boy.
You gotta be freaking OBS just said we just got so OBS kicked us off for a second. Hopefully it stays on the same episode. It's saying time elapsed is still 45 minutes, so I know we were kicked off, everyone. I don't know what else to do. We're back now. Yep, we got kicked offline. Yeah,
We're back?
we're back.
Oh, awesome.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, we were buffering. Okay, maybe it was just buffering. We're back now. So if we're buffering and it could be coming from me, what I'll do is close some tabs to ensure that it's not me that's causing it, because I'm the one that has so much opened right now. And what I'll do is make sure that it's not anything that I'm making happen, and give more oh, and another thing I want to bring up before we get kicked off again, and hopefully we won't. We're 45 minutes into the episode because we started a little early. So even if we get kicked off, at least we've got most of the episode, down. Check this out. Did you ever see these before? The spherical clouds. People think that they're hiding aliens. I don't know if that's the case. It doesn't really matter if it is, but now there are spherical clouds. What? I know I'm just springing this on you, but and it still just adds to the overall weirdness of thanks Kyle. It just adds to the overall weirdness. I don't know. What do you think?
In all honesty, I don't like the approach that so many people who are, experts in the field have taken to all the new types of clouds. Like instead of saying we're having some phenomena, we got all these weird clouds that we've never seen before, they're just coming up with, Latin names for them and just saying, oh yeah, that was always there, it's fine. Even if they admit like it's only been cited since 2015 or since, 2017. And I imagine that this is the same. Is like, we know it's completely insane to
Hmm.
have a spherical, football like a soccer ball cloud. But I imagine most people are not concerned, and I don't. On the last topic there of sky cities, I don't know why they bothered scrubbing the internet of sky cities, because nobody except us is going to look into that or care. Even if there's 100 buses coming in and out of the city, like, nobody cares. So why scrub it?
Well, and I think I might have an answer to that because I was told that, I guess maybe it's just this version of reality, or maybe it's the way it's always been. This could go back to the idea someone mentioned background people or NDEs or whatever, that it's a relatively small portion of the population that can change things. Um, like a really, really small number. I heard the numbers around 2%, 5%, 7%. And if now I don't know if that's the number that's truly awake. I don't know if that's that's why we're all scattered in the four corners of the globe or whatever it may be. And there's so few of us in each region of the planet. But now that we have this tool, it sure seems to be something of a blessing and a curse. But the reason why it would get scrubbed is just the right amount of people could be concentrating on it. And if we go back to Gateway, we know that perception does actually affect reality. It does affect Schrodinger's cat. And I just, the only thing that bothers me is if that isn't the case, then we have such an apathetic um, group of humanity. I don't know if it's redeemable. And those of us that are able to have the blinders off, so to speak, they live kind of thing where we can take the glasses off. I hope, I don't know if there's enough of us for redemption in any form. And I don't particularly mean that in the strictly biblical form at all. I mean redemption as in there's enough of us here to where this version of reality is worth saving. I just, I don't know.
I know that we've kind of definitely looked at that before and tried to make sense of why it's so different and why people are so uninterested in, like, basically everything. um but I would hope that even if there's just a small percentage of the population, that maybe the reason it's even still running years down the line is just because we're here. And I know that that might sound like way too self-important or whatever, but I don't know if the people here were, like, messed with, like, if there's some kind of weird, energy weapon or something that only works on them, or if they're just apathetic by nature, or I don't know what is going on with them. But they just, nothing rattles them.
It is weird. There's nothing, and you don't. The reason why you don't have to sound self-important is we don't have big enough megaphone to really affect any kind of major outcome. So that's why I don't sweat that. I don't sweat, worrying about whether or not, we sound overly important or what. I fully embrace whether or not we're more awake or not. And because part of it too is someone mentioned him. I think it was like Lanessa's. Sure, it's contagious ascension, but also too, it could be the fact that we're descending. We're not ascending. We're descending. Now, that plays back into fear, and for my own self-preservation I choose love over fear. But there's also a factor of having to take everything into account so I can make sure that my calculation is absolutely proper and correct. And I feel bold enough that I have the right amount of people and the right kind of people listening to my voice now that I feel more comfortable with really expressing myself in the way that I feel about whether or not it's a small number of ascension, whether it's the beginning of a mass ascension, whether it's a descension, whether it's the Mandela effect is something natural, it's something not natural, this or that or whatever it may be. Simply because we've been doing this so long, and people, they come, they go, and so it, we sort of know the ropes, so to speak. But well, let me throw this at you. So, what are you thinking about? I went out and I asked the director of the Mandela Effect movie that's coming out. Someone mentioned it in the chat, and it's something that I reached out and I asked to interview him. So hopefully, if I know if his PR team or if he's listening, hopefully, I'm waiting to hear back. They'll say yes, because I think we're uniquely. By the way, the dog you're hearing, I got a dog. This actually, it was day before yesterday. They were getting rid of him because they were retiring to a boat, and they were going to put him in the pound, and we found out and got him. Just went and got him, and now there's a massive dog in the house. Huge.
I'm sure the cats love that. Oh
I
my
know,
gosh.
it's 5 cats and a dog, and the dog is a massive. It almost looks like a Scooby-Doo dog. What's the big dog? That real massive dog? It's not. It's a Chesapeake Bay Golden Retriever, and it's a beast. And it's a lovely dog. His name is Wilson because he likes to chew Wilson tennis balls, and he chews them like you might chew gum. That's how big this thing is. This thing goes up to
Gosh.
he's so big. He's so big that he's up to my hip, and he when I sat on the couch, his paws were so massive. He put them on my shoulders, and his massive mouth, he could have literally reached around my head. My head could have gone in his mouth. He was so massive.
That's crazy. I'm glad he's a friendly dog. Let's
And
put it
he's
that way.
totally friendly, but if you come to the door, he freaks out.
No one in their right mind is going to try and get into your house now with him in there.
He's a beast, and he's completely gentle. I mean, and now it's really funny. There's no choice. He lays on the couch, and well, there's really no choice because the couch is. He'll step up on the couch, and it barely bends his. I don't know what you call them. They're not knees. I don't know what they are, but he stands and he just sits on the couch like you would a chair. It's massive. I've never dealt with something this massive, so I'm still learning the ropes. So anyway.
Probably lots of food. Probably a lot more than the cats eat, I
Oh
think.
God, oh yeah, and the cat's already getting used to him. He's so gentle. One of the cats ran up him to get to her. On top of the couch, they have like little cat sitting areas, and he was laying there, and he was sort of laying on the side of the couch, so his head was there. So she ran up him like some kind of, you know, like meat ladder, and she ran up him, and he didn't even bat an eye. It was just crazy. So I'd say he's at least, let's see, I'm a buck 50, so he's at least half me. So he could be about 80 pounds maybe. So yeah, he's no joke. Anyway,
That's a
sorry.
lot of dog
It's
right
a lot of
there.
dog, man. It's a lot of dog, man. It's gonna be a lot of dog food. Holy cow. And the house isn't that big either, so it's like holy cow. So what was I talking
Oh my
about?
gosh, what did you get yourself
I
into?
know, I know,
Um,
I
we were
know.
talking about the Death Star cloud. It's scaring some people in the chat too. They got the emojis going. Um, if you scroll up a little bit because we can't see the pictures very well.
Oh
But
sure, yeah, no problem. The Death Star cloud. Oh yeah, this thing
yeah,
on okay, cool. Cloud. Let me see here. All right, there we go. Death Star cloud. This is what, and this is 2016. So these things have been around, obviously post 2012, and it's Japan. So we're not necessarily talking. There they are. There's some good ones. 3 of them right there for you. Boom. People took to Twitter to discuss the crazy cloud formation in Japan. There it is. Wow, look at that thing.
those are super weird.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Look at those things. I mean, you can't tell me that's normal. That's not normal. There's nothing about that that's normal.
No. Like I presume they're trying to say, oh yeah, this just happens, but at least from my life experience of like that is not normal. That can't be right. Something's going on here.
Totally. Oh, you know it. That's insane. And someone mentioned, I think they even mentioned in the article to scoff at it, but they mentioned that it's hiding a UAP UFO, and given that this post 2012 world we live in, going back to the white sun in 2012 and the Orion, I think it's all tied together. I think it's totally tied together. I don't think any of those things are in a box off in a corner by itself. I think it's all put together. Oh, the movie. So the point about the movie is, and the why I want to talk to the director about it is, I think we have an important, a unique and important part of a corner of the Mandela effect community, and a unique take on reality. Now that we've been studying this, whether it was our finding of the Axis powers bombing the West Coast, whether or not we found out about the massive British loss of Singapore in World War II during those studies, whether it was the Philadelphia experiment, whether it was 2012, and on and on and on, Chick, of all of the things that, we've gone through with Buster, you, myself, other researchers. I think we've carved ourselves out a nice little niche audience, and I think everyone here who's a regular understands kind of the whole arc, the arc that we're kind of finding, and that goes back to Gateway and the million other documents that One Human Problem, all those things that we talk about. And I think we could ask really interesting and intelligent questions, and that's why I asked if it was possible. And I think that my fear is I don't want this community to be marginalized, and I don't want it because it's going to make its big splash and debut to the broader public that's mostly going to be apathetic. However, there are going to be a new probably influx of people, just like when the Mandela effect was a brand new internet fad 2 years ago. I don't want to be painted as unstable people, and because what happened was the UAP thing happened, and UFO people were laughed at for decades, and now there's literally an abundance of evidence out there in the Navy, and now Congress and everyone else has come out and said, yes, they're real. Don't worry, we're not talking ETs quite yet, but yes, UAP, UFOs, in the strictest form of the definition, are real. And now people for 50 or 60 years that were laughed at, they have a big I told you so. And I don't want that to be the case for us and have to wait 50 or 60 years.
No, but I think that there is certainly at least some kind of vindication going on for people, as in the UFO people are finally getting some kind of vindication. The targeted individuals with the direct energy weapons, they got vindicated when the US ambassadors in Cuba got blasted with it and got injured, and it was reported everywhere, like
Mm-hmm.
mainstream reported. So finally they got some kind of vindication. The JFK conspiracy people got vindication retroactively, where immediately they're like, oh yeah, there was, the grassy knoll, and we think there's two shooters, and all, and they said that straight away in the commission.
Yep. And I would like to think others were obviously talking about that, but I think we broke that as an ME. Because I think Buster brought that to us. We looked it over, and then I don't remember how that played out exactly, so I don't want to say it like that exactly, but we talked about it quite extensively, that the Warren report now says, in case anyone wants to go back and check the receipts, it now says JFK, yeah, there was a second shooter, and it was on the grassy knoll, and that is in the Warren report. And that's in the National Archives. Just like in the National Archives, it has Bill Clinton, who talks about Publishers Clearinghouse and Ed McMahon. And it's in the National Archives over and over again with different presidents.
And I wonder if there is, even though we don't usually focus on that, I'm just like on the vindication spiel right now. Because another thing that was different, that I actually hadn't thought about until right now as possibly a Mandela effect, is that footage of uh, Bill Clinton apologizing for the like MK Ultra experiments, or the crazy experiments they did with, trying to do time travel and trying to, he actually made a speech and apologized for experiments that were, even in their time, were not, correct to do, that they were too heavy, and too not considering the life and well-being of whoever it was being done on. I had never seen that footage before.
Oh
I was in Get
wow.
Riot Arm, and
Yeah.
here it started going around YouTube, and I was like, oh my gosh, an official apology to people that weren't believed for so long that said, this is going on, this is going on. And people said, yeah, crazy, tinfoil hat, that's not true. And then the actual president of the United States gives an official apology for it in a speech. Like, I'm just like, okay, I think there is at least some kind of vindication for people. I'm trying to keep hopeful that maybe that's going to come for us too, because it's coming for, it seems to be all kinds of different communities, and there's probably things that I don't even know about that are happening right now, vindicating groups of people.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just very it's very strange. Let's see. Dolores Cannon now talks about the mud flood. Well, and that's the thing about the Mandela effect is that, and quantum of consciousness is the first I heard say about the second shooter. Well, we were talking about the second shooter from the National Archives, so I don't know when quantum of conscience. We were talking about that last year, I think. So, but anyway, but good for quantum of conscience. That's good on him, um, or them. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yes. So, but the Mandela effect with the Bill Clinton speech, the Mandela effect with the Bill Clinton Publishers Clearinghouse. I think that it's the Mandela effect that's making all of that happen. So people, when he talks about MK Ultra, when Bill Clinton talks about those kinds of things, when people are getting these kinds of vindications, what it is really an effect of the Mandela effect. It's an attribute of the Mandela effect. It's the Mandela effect itself that's actually conducting this kind of business where retroactively people are finally getting the answers that they wanted, and they're getting them in the documents that they originally wanted them, because now the Warren report is a robust full document that actually goes in and explains everything. And I think what happens is over time the document slowly morphs until someone comes over, reads it over again for, out of nowhere, and then suddenly rediscover something new about it. But in terms of the Bill Clinton speech, I remember seeing the speech and being surprised about it, but you're right, I don't remember it in his administration. And that is something that would, given the tenor of his administration and what that administration did in terms of like Waco and the heavy-handedness in which it acted with different factions of American society. And I know people say about Waco they were in a cult and all those other things, and I don't want to rehash all of that, but I mean, there was a lot of, I saw a lot of documentaries afterwards about Waco, that there was a lot, and Oklahoma City, there was a lot of second guessing of the decisions that were made in law enforcement all the way up to the executive branch about the heavy-handedness. Now, whether or not you thought that was proper or not, I mean, that's not really the debate I'm making. The point I'm making is about the tenor of that administration compared to the speech that was made. The speech that was made is very in line with the Mandela effect speech, because it's out of line with the normal narrative that a particular subject has. Just like there's the narrative about the moon, and then suddenly you find out that there's an Andy Warhol on the moon. So it goes completely against the the normal narrative about the moon. Just like there's all kinds of strange things on the moon now that are just unbelievable, including the moon being in Earth's atmosphere. And so that is consistent what you're talking about, it happening afterwards or seeing it afterwards. That's a good catch, actually.
Because their thing was like, never admit that you were wrong. And, being attorneys, being trained that way, it was a never say, oh yeah, we were wrong, sorry. It was always like, oh no, it was justified because of this, this, this. And they tell people in high positions of power to say that anyway. But that was, like I said, especially if you're from an attorney's background, that's what you're going to say. And I watched all the congressional hearings at Waco, and I saw like all the crazy stuff that was going on there and how much everyone was trying to blame, everyone else and all this. And it just doesn't fit in with me that they would come out and say, oh yeah, we were wrong. Whoops. because
Right.
that's just not, it makes it look like, um I suppose that the thing would be like you're leading the country, you want to be like strong in all decisions that you make. You don't want to come out and say, whoops, that was a bit mad, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
Because if you
totally
couldn't,
right.
and that I'm just trying to catch like things that I didn't think about before that don't make sense with, but then it's hard to say because it's like, well, here it's an Orion version of whatever the historical event was, and you and I are thinking about the Sagittarius version of, the Clintons and what they did and Waco and how they handled things, and even just what, political reality was like back then.
Absolutely. Totally. And prelim, if you're asking me that question with something that specific, I think you already know what it is. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I can't confirm it. I mean, it's out there. I don't know if it's real or not. So that's all I can really say about that. But anyway, back to the movie. I think there's a responsibility with the movie, it being the first one out there, and it just all depends. And I hopefully it's painted, because it's really going to be a defining moment in our sort of scene, in our sort of little corner of the internet. It's going to be a defining moment, so it's going to be incredibly important. And for everyone out there, if you want to reach out to the director and be polite, and ask him, hey, that would be. And I already sent a tweet out, and a lot of you, thankfully, responded to me asking the director, and you were very polite about it, and thank you. If you want to reply to that tweet, that would show interest, and it would also show them, what they want to get interest in the movie up, which is obviously understandable. They put a lot of money into it. They put a lot of time into it. They put a lot of care into it, and that's something I'm not going to take away from anyone. I sent it out on November 11th to David Guy Levy, who is the director. If you happen to be on Twitter, you can also reply that you'd like to hear his voice on this channel, and I will do everything I can to make that happen, and I will be respectful and all those things. But it's something I think it would be beneficial for all of us if we could have an understanding about the movie, because it's very important to all of us. So but please, if you're going to do that, be respectful. So because if you're not, it's not going to help any of us if you're disrespectful. So anyway.
Uh, Jam is, I think she's saying the Lindbergh baby was female for her, and now she's saying that it changed to a male child.
Mm.
So for me, the baby was always a little boy, but I believe you. You know what I mean? For
Mm-hmm.
some people, maybe it was a little girl.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it was a boy. Weird. Huh.
Is a boy now. Um, actually that did. I remember in 2016, like early when I was getting hit with the Mandela effect, and I don't think this is controversial to talk about, but I'll just say it as like the Madeline case, the little girl that went missing. She had twins, younger siblings, and I do believe um they're like a boy and a girl now, and they were like two boys originally for me, and I was shocked to see that one of them was a girl in this reality.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it does happen, and it seems to be almost like a background thing like that, that if you weren't watching very closely, because it's not like the main character in the story, it'd be like their siblings or their cousin or someone like that. It's a detail that could pass you by, but I've seen a little bit of that, and in all honesty, that has to be a pretty weird effect for anyone that's like in a family that actually notices, like suddenly their niece or nephew is like their nephew instead of their niece. Like that has to be completely weird.
Well, I mean, the only way that works is, like we talk about, you get the download. There's someone who I was listening to their video the other day, and they said they were talking to a sibling or something, and the sibling was all into it, the Mandela effect, and then one day just shrugged it off and was completely cold about it. and it was like a different person, and it was, I don't know how new they are to the scene or to the community, but that happens. That people, they get the download, so to speak, and I don't know what that's about, but they do, and then suddenly they don't want to talk about it, and they sort of fade into the background like everyone else who, is completely, just a blank slate when it comes to anything of substance, and not specifically the Mandela effect, just anything of substance. It's very strange. It's weird stuff. So we're wrapping this thing up. Any other, I want to thank everybody. We finally had a smooth show other than that buffering hiccup. Hopefully it'll still show on my channel as one video. I hope so. We'll see. It's the elapsed time is an hour and 12 minutes. So, Chick, any parting shots?
I'm just thinking right now of the different things that have come up today. It's been a very, very strange day, like I said. I think actually, if I can just grab the link to that Elizabeth Taylor video, I would like you guys to watch that and let me know what you think. Um, you know, I might. 1 second here. I posted it all over my timeline. There we go. Just need to get the link here without hopefully making too much noise. Moving my microphone around.
It's all right.
Sorry. Okay. Got it. And where are we here? Okay, I'm just posting it in the chat. It's only like 3 minutes long. It won't take like a whole bunch of your time. But I think that maybe Elizabeth Taylor was an ME, because I think that she had more than one near-death experience, and I think she may have been reported dead more than once. And then also speaking about the white sun, I'm just like, there's something definitely going on there, and she keeps coming back up over and over. And I mean, I liked, her movies and stuff, but I was never particularly like focused on her during my life. And now she's coming up like so much. I'm just like, oh, there has to be something to this that keeps coming to my attention over and over.
Well, there's, we talked about it. There are certain people that arise in this thing, and they come back over and over again. Like right now, it's it's Sally Fields, and well, her Sally Field. See, there's just, I don't know what it is about that. It's just over and over again. And now that she's mentioned the white sun, my ears are perked, and I will be paying attention now. Certainly, anytime I even hear a mention of Liz Taylor now, I'm going to read the article or click the link or whatever it may be. Absolutely.
That's I think that's mainly like the crazy stuff today. Just Elizabeth Taylor saw White Sun. Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson went to each other's funerals.
Right.
Making that video, that's pretty wild stuff going on here. I have witnesses, but like I said, I'm trying to get like documents, so it's not just he said, she said kind of stuff. I'm trying to think what else weird today. It's just been a super duper weird day, having 11/11s come out of everywhere, and plenty of people around me seem to be having some kind of shift sickness, even though they're not really seeing many Mandela effects. So I don't know if that's the start of people waking up, or if they're just being affected by whatever's going on an energetic level, whether or not they're affected on a conscious level. Thankfully, I didn't get sick from it, but I definitely felt a lot of stuff going on around the 11th. Maybe that's why I've been seeing 11/11 everywhere, is because, it was 11/11. I am not sure, but at any rate, yeah, apart from that was enough weirdness for one day, I think.
Absolutely. And Eileen did mention that there's an NDE stories and Atwater's book Near Death Experience, the rest of the story. So there you go. I think that's a great place to end this. Ooh, Tom Pranks. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so that's it, everybody. Appreciate you being here, and I think this is a good step in getting back on track with everything, getting the machine up and running again. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.